Hello everyone, this is me again, Sam from Trailers and T-Shirts in the Philippines. We just want to say thank you for all those who are watching our videos and subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much. Our videos now are, thankfully, they are on the top search when you look for NEBOSH videos on YouTube, and we couldn't have done this without you. So thank you very much. And today we're going to talk about the new GC3 unit. And GC3 was before it was called the IGC3. Actually, NEBOSH starting 2014 decided to change units IGC2 and IGC3 into GC2 and GC3, and also decided to change units NGC2 and NGC3 into the same units GC2 and GC3. You know, NEBOSH before had two certificates: National General Certificate and International General Certificate. I'm talking about the general certificates. Now, it was before the three units were different. So there was NGC1, NGC2, and NGC3. And then there was IGC1, IGC2, and IGC3. Now, no, they decided to standardize the last two units. So NGC2, IGC2, NGC3, and IGC3 are going to be the same, one unit, whether inside the UK or outside the UK, and they will be called GC2 unit and GC3 unit. Okay? Because you know, NEBOSH in general certificate, they have two certificates: international for those who are working outside the UK, and national for those who are working inside the UK, and it has more focus on the UK laws and regulations. So now for the units IGC2, IGC3, NGC2, NGC3, they're both now standardized, worldwide, universal, and they're called GC2 and GC3. Okay? Now, this will start, of course, in 2014. And the updates, the actual updates are really minimal, so nothing so scary. The only thing is that they changed the names for now. And today I'm going to talk about the updates for the IGC3, which is now will be called GC3. Okay? Now our usual statement: this is not a video coming from NEBOSH and does not represent NEBOSH views in any ways. One more thing, please, because I receive a lot of emails asking me, well, the sheet that you used in your video, it's different now. There is a different sheet now. Which one should we follow? I always say, and I mention it sometimes in the about section below the video, please always stay updated. Our videos can get outdated at any time. So please always contact your provider for the updated sheets of IGC3, or now called GC3. For any updates, NEBOSH always issues updates for their standards and for their sheets and for their units. Okay, so we cannot issue a video or produce a video every couple of months just to give you the updates. So please stay updated through your provider, or you can even contact NEBOSH directly. Okay, thank you. So let's get started with our updates today. The first thing in the new GC3 is the sheet. So let's start with your observation sheet. If you remember your observation sheet and the table, and as you can see, before it had hazards / good practices on the first column. Now the first column is a little bit different. It states there hazards and consequences. Okay, hazards and consequences, and this means that candidates must demonstrate their understanding of how identified hazards have the potential to cause harm. Let's review how many hazards you need to outline. Now you need to outline, you should outline at least 20 uncontrolled hazards to gain the maximum marks. It is recommended to mention between 20 and 30. Okay, in case of duplication of hazards, the candidate will not gain marks. So if you mention the same hazard twice, even in a slightly different manner, you will still not gain 2 marks, only the mark assigned for one hazard. Okay. Candidates must demonstrate their understanding of how the identified hazards might cause harm. For example, a floor opening. How is this going to affect someone, or what is the risk? So you must say that floor opening, okay, in this specific area, then someone might fall, okay, and break their bones or get injured. So now in the first column, you must mention both the hazards and consequences, or the risks attached to the hazard. and it is recommended to mention between 20 and 30 hazards. Again, another example, how the identified hazards have the potential to cause harm. Boxes stored on the floor may cause obstruction of access, okay, and egress routes, and or a potential of musculoskeletal injuries if lifted. Clear? Nice. Now, the second thing is there is a maximum 1 mark available now for good practices. Remember before we recommended more than one good practice? Well, now, yes, still you are recommended to mention 20 to 30 hazards, not less than 20, and maybe 1 to 2 or 3 practices, but you must understand that a maximum of 1 mark is now available for good practices in the observation sheet. That's why we recommend you to mention more than one. In case one is not good enough or satisfactory to the examiner, then you still have one to gain marks for. Next is that the candidates should now focus on physical conditions rather than poor policies and procedures. This is very important. If you'd like to gain marks, then you should focus on things like floor openings, floor holes, physical issues that might fire hazards, chemical hazards, okay, unsafe acts, but don't focus on policies or procedures, things like lack of training procedures or lack of health and safety policy, or the health and safety policy is not updated, okay. Those will not gain you the marks that you're looking for. Rather stick with physical, and don't forget that this is supposed to be a safety inspection, that you're going around looking for hazards and suggesting controls, okay. Candidates who repeat identical hazards will only be awarded 1 mark for the hazard. Again, if you repeat or duplicate, then you will only gain 1 mark. This goes for good practices and for hazards. Okay. Now the report. Those are the main updates in your observation sheet for GC3. Now the report. The report in GC3, the difference now is that you're allowed 700 to 1,000 words. My last video, it was still on the old version, and I was recommended less than that, I think around 500. Now the new one is 700 to 1,000. Candidates are allowed to consult with reference books. Take care, please. If you have any sample answers, if you have any textbooks, do not copy, because this is plagiarism and it is not acceptable by NEBOSH. The candidates must explain why management need to take action. As I said in the last video, you need to convince the management in your report to follow your recommendations and not just to repeat what you mentioned in the observation sheet. And this will be mainly in the main findings area. So the candidate must explain why management need to take action. This should include clear legal, moral, and financial arguments, issues requiring urgent action by management with associated explanation containing convincing arguments why such action is needed. So you must tell your management, yes, this might cost us, for example, $1,000, but what if we don't do it? And then we'll get fines because we're breaking those specific rules and laws and regulations. Then we might pay hundreds of thousands of fines. We might lose our employees. Someone might get injured, and the cost will be this and this and that. So you have legal consequences, financial consequences, moral consequences, etc., etc., as we mentioned in the in our first video. Okay. Now this is all for now. So I'm very glad this video was short enough. Again, this is about GC3 updates. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.